Start.
Take one.
Okay,
Take one, yeah.
page 1 of the second book. Book of Exodus, Shemot. The beginning is known. We just talked about it. The time between the first book and the second book, the longest is 59 years. Because Joseph was 110 when he died. The book of Genesis ends with the death of Joseph. The book of Exodus really starts with the birth of Moses, even before that, but for sure with the birth of Moses. Between the death of Joseph and the birth of Moses, according to the calculations, is 59 years. And really, the book of Exodus on page 2 starts the first line on page 2.
Question, is there a significance to the fact that it's a 59-year gap?
I think there is a significance.
59?
Well, not the number 59 per se, but there's some controversy over the line that we're going to get to, where there was whatever it is, a pharaoh who didn't know
Who forgot,
Joseph.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think the controversy is was that a new pharaoh or is that the same pharaoh?
Well,
because it doesn't say
I
that Pharaoh
understand.
died.
Here it says that Pharaoh died.
It does.
No, it says that a new king came up.
Right.
Means a new king.
But it
is
says here,
yeah,
he
Rashi
was actually the same king.
That's two opinions.
Yes,
One opinion
yes.
says it's the same
but
king.
if it's
You're right.
59 years, the first pharaoh would have had to have been really young in order to still...
You're right. Oh, and the literal sense, for sure, it's a new king. No question, it's a new king. But even if it wasn't a new king, he made himself new. He forgot what was going on. Like he forgot about Joseph. As long as Joseph was alive, let's read from inside the number 6, in top of the page.
Joseph died. All his brothers and all that generation also died.
The generation died on page 2. And what happened when the generation died? Suddenly everybody forgets what they did for the country. As long as Joseph was alive, they couldn't deny it. The moment he died, that's it. It's over. Then, but there is a medrash that says Joseph died, his whole generation died, but the God of the Jews didn't die, so to speak. And therefore, even they died, we are not alone. We still have a God who takes care of us. Continue.
The Bnei Israel were fruitful and prolific, and their population multiplied. They were exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them.
Well, filled with them. And therefore it started this whole thing about Pharaoh was afraid of them, right? And he wants to get rid of the Jews.
He wants to get rid of them, or does he
wants to reduce the population, number 1. You know what it's called today?
Genocide?
Family planning.
Oh.
But he wanted to to reduce the population. He was afraid. Let's continue. Mark, you want to continue to read? Number 8.
A new king came into power over Egypt, who did not know Joseph. He said
One
to his
way or
people,
another, he didn't know Joseph, he didn't want to know. Even if it's a new king, what means he did not know Joseph? Everybody knew the story. He didn't want to know the story of Joseph, even if it's a new king. He said to his people,
Behold, the people of the Bnei Israel are becoming too numerous and strong for us. Come, let us deal wisely with him, lest he increase so much that if there is war, he will join our enemies and fight against us, driving us from the land.
then what is happening here? They made a meeting, the final solution meeting, like it was in Germany. Who was attending the meeting? 3 very famous people according to the Talmud. Job, Jethro, and Bilam.
Yeah.
That's what the Talmud says. It's not written in the text, but the Talmud says these 3 people were there. Bilam gave the advice. Bilam said, kill them. Jethro said, anybody who touches the Jews touches the pupil of the eye of God. And Job said nothing. Silent. That the Talmud concludes. Pharaoh accepted the advice of Bilam. That's why Jethro ran away from Egypt and he ended up in Midian. And that's how Moses married his daughter. Why Jethro welcomed Moses? Because he himself was a guy who fled from Egypt, that he could relate to another guy who's fleeing from Egypt. Jethro knew Moses probably from the good old days, so to speak. Well, at least he could relate to him. Both of them were two people who run away of the government, from the government. They were sometimes there is the exiled government or in a different country, and then Bilam said, kill them. Then the Talmud concludes, because he gave them the advice, eventually Bilam was killed by the Jews. Right? By the end after the story of in Balak, with the whole story with this blessing, he wanted to curse, he ended to bless, and then was a war there, and the Jews killed Bilam. Jethro was said to you have to protect the Jewish people, God rewarded them that his grandchildren were members in the Jewish Supreme Court, the Sanhedrin, because his daughter married Moses, another daughter married Elazar, the son of Aaron, that a part of, and maybe more, that a part of his family was a part of the Jewish people. His grandchildren were. Job, because he said nothing, he was punished with suffering, because saying nothing is not an option.
Is this before this? So this suffering was this why the book of Job is written?
Yes.
This is the suffering he comes to because of that. This is the source.
That's according to the
source.
Talmud. Yes, according to this story. Even that you can say that the story of the Job was later in history.
Yeah.
One opinion says that Job never existed. It was only a parable.
Right.
Job was like the Pope,
Pope the one, Pope the second.
because Pope, when the Nazis came to Rome,
You're a good
they were
point.
waiting to hear from what to do. They weren't sure, and the Pope was silent.
They understood what to do.
They knew what to do.
You're absolutely right. For being silent is as a crime as doing it. You cannot be silent. And that's the lesson from this story. That in this meeting came up the plan with a final solution. Number 11. Doctor?
Okay. They appointed conscription officers over him to oppress him with their burdens. He built supply cities for Pharaoh. These are the Jews. Pithom and Ramses. But the more
What they wanted to do is, let's take him out from homes. They will work very hard. First of all, they'll not procreate. There will not be more children. It was all about reducing the numbers, number one. He says they become so many, they will chase us out from the land. The Jews became the movers and the shakers of the land. In the end of Parshat Vayigash, from last part, it's written that the Jews became a part of the country. They liked it. They were the businessmen, they were everything. That they started to aid them, to be afraid of them. But what happened? Continue. Number 12.
But the more the Egyptians oppressed him, the more the Bnei Yisrael increased and spread. The Egyptians came to loathe the Bnei Yisrael.
To loathe, to hate, to be disgusted by the Jews. Then what happened? The more they oppressed them, the more numerous they become. And here I saw from the Rebbe something very interesting. What's the smallest tribe in the Jewish people?
Levites.
The Levites. Why? The traditional explanation is that because the Levites used to be the one who carried the Ark of the Covenant, right? The Kohanes. And if you carry the Ark of the Covenant and you don't treat it the right way,
You're gone.
you're gone. Then they were less. It still doesn't explain why the numbers are so different. You cannot say every day somebody died. It doesn't make sense. The Rebbe said a much more positive explanation. That makes much more sense. He says it's written here, the more they suffered, the more they became populous. Who suffered? Which tribe suffered?
Not
Oh,
Levites.
Not the
Not the
Levites.
Levites, right.
The Levites were the priests. The priests were not a part of the Arsh labor. If you don't suffer, you don't get a blessing. The people who got the blessing, the people who suffered got the blessing. The people who didn't suffer didn't get the blessing. To multiply in this kind of numbers, then coming in with 70 people and going out with a few millions in the amount in 200 years, 210 years, it takes a miracle. That who got a miracle? The people who suffered. The people who didn't suffer didn't get a miracle. And it makes a lot of sense. Okay.
But
Go ahead.
if you go earlier, it says the Bnei Yisrael are fruitful and prolific, and their population multiplied. That word Vayishritzu means
Yeah.
teeming or swarming, really.
Swarming, like
So
many,
that God
many.
made a miracle that they
Sure.
grew at a faster rate.
Much faster
Than
than
any
the
other
normal.
population.
Absolutely, yes. According to the Rashi, they gave birth to
two twins and quadruplets.
quadruples, like six in one shot. 10 birds, 6 in one shot, you have 60 children. It doesn't take much. You have a whole nation. That was
That'd be a huge strain on the marriage.
the marriage. That's the only problem, you know.
And it was the number. The reason it was the number 6. I just saw that maybe that the words there was like 6 words.
Oh, Vayipo,
And
that's
each
nice. I didn't know that.
Each
Yeah.
word is
Poru,
one.
Vayishretzu, Vayirbu, Vayatzmu. B'moed moed. Yeah, very nice. I didn't hear it. Yeah.
Wow.
6 expressions of multiplying. And that's why how the Talmud came up with it. They were giving birth to 6 in one shot. Very nice. Okay, we are in page 5, number 13. Go ahead.
The Egyptians enslaved the Bnei Israel with body-breaking labor. They made their lives bitter with harsh labor involving mortar and bricks and all kinds of work in the fields. All the work they made them do was intended to break them. King of Egypt spoke.
That now, so far, it describes how he made them walk out. They made them slave labor. Now comes the new stage. What's the next on the agenda? Still, you cannot get rid of the Jews, even that you pull them out from the houses, you make them walk out. Some of them probably died from the harsh labor, but still there's too many Jews. Here is the next stage. The king of Egypt.
The king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives. The name of one of them was Shiphrah, and the name of the other was Puah. He said, when you deliver a Hebrew woman, you must look at the birth stool. If it's a boy, you kill him. If it's a girl, let her live.
Okay, here he comes with another idea. He wants to kill the Jewish babies, but the Jews are too big, too many to go out and to say publicly, I want to kill Jewish babies. It will not be accepted in the country. What is he doing? He calls the midwives, the head of the midwife movement, union. And he tells them, quietly, when it's a boy, just kill him. It's a girl. Don't tell anybody. If you tell, you're in big trouble. That was the agenda. Not publicly going out to kill the Jewish babies. It's like in Germany, they didn't start right away they started with small steps. And little by little, they legitimized the Jews. Mm-hmm. The same thing is here. That's the next day. First of all, he puts them out labor. According to the Talmud, how the whole harsh labor came about. Pharaoh was looking for volunteers to fix the country. Who are the first one to volunteer every time?
Slapper.
The Jews.
Oh, I read the slappers.
The Jews. The Jews. Always trying to show how loyal they are to the country, right? The full Jews. Then what happened? They called them. They started to volunteer. They were very successful. I said, oh, you guys did a good job. It became more and more mandatory. It's almost like a volunteering tax. It's volunteering for 2 years. Then the government makes it more real and more. It became... He brought them into the harsh labor. Again, it was a very smart technique how to get a normal people, a normal nation who lives in your country, to turn them into second-class citizens.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
How come, the Torah, which is very explicit and it's always very direct and everything else, creates sometimes veils. And here we have names being used for Moshe.
Shifra and Puah.
Yeah.
Because they were called at that time Shifra and Puah. It was a very normal thing in biblical time. Even today, like there is Benedict III. People get a job, have a different name. Then it could be that, first of all, we don't know if it's Miriam and Yocheved.
We don't.
Rashi says that according to the Talmud, it's Miriam and Yocheved. But could be the Torah wants to say they were called not because they were Miriam and Yocheved, because they were Shifra and Puah. Shifra and Puah were the names of a midwife name. Anybody who was a midwife name, so to speak, that was his name, Shifra and Puah. Because as Rashi says, it means that they make the kid look beautiful, and they make the kid not cry, and so on. Basically, they were named after the job. And that's the idea. The idea is to point out that God called midwives, that Pharaoh called the midwives. What the midwives did, you want to continue? Number 17, on page 6.
Oh, thank you. The midwives, however, feared Elohim and did not do as the Egyptian king had told them. And they kept the infant boys alive.
First of all, it's written here, if it's a girl, kill, if it's a boy, kill him. If it's a boy, keep her, make her alive, so to speak. V'chaya in Hebrew means keep her alive. Because Pharaoh had an agenda for the girls too. He said the boys shall kill, the girls shall assimilate. That's what he wanted. But the Jewish midwives did not do it, and they kept the children alive. Not only they kept them alive, as Rashi says, they made sure that they're alive. They provided them with the nourishment that they needed. Okay, page 7. When Pharaoh hears that it doesn't work,
The king of Egypt called for the midwives and said to them, "Why do you do this? You let the infant boys live." The midwives said to Pharaoh, "The Hebrew women are not like the Egyptians. They know how to deliver even before a midwife gets to them, and they have already given birth." Elohim was good to the midwives, and all the people increased and were very mighty.
look, that's something interesting. They didn't listen to the Pharaoh, right? And they said to Pharaoh, they risked their life, big time. They said, oh, when we come already, the baby is born, we're coming too late. They don't call us. They have their own midwives. They know how to give birth. They don't need help. What God rewarded them, what Elohim was good to the midwife. How he rewarded the midwives? What's written in the next line?
And the people increased and were very mighty.
See,
Again,
the rewards for the midwife was that there is a lot of Jewish children.
But this is strange. The name Elohim is connected to Teva. It's more of a restrictiveness. It's usually more.
That's already on a different level. I hear what you
I mean,
say.
as opposed to the
It was
personal.
name Hashem instead of Hashem.
Strictness.
Right. It's the
Strict-
God of
There's
creation.
not rock.
Even in the God even in the God of Din of judgment, even then they were successful. They were many. Even on a lower level, they were a lot. But what he says is, Rashi says, what's the reward to the midwives? The next line, that he made them homes. But literal, what was the reward of the midwives? Many Jewish children. The biggest reward to the midwives was not for them personally. The midwives are so much interested in the Jewish people that the biggest reward to a righteous man, to a leader of the Jewish people, what's the biggest reward? More Jews. What Shifra and Puah wanted? Many more children.
I was just going to say, it's interesting what the Lex 9 talks about. He gave them houses, but you think of all the Jewish people that were enslaved, but then when they were done with their work, it seems like they went back to their homes. It's like, well, that's pretty nice. They have their home, but they're still enslaved.
No, they were even slaves have homes. It doesn't mean that they live on the street.
No, I would think they were more.
They were,
barracks.
according to the Medrash, they were in the fields. As Rashi as the whole Medrash that speaks about the Jewish women. It's written because of the merit of the Jewish women, the Jewish people left Egypt. What was the righteous Jewish woman? What are the righteous Jewish women did? The men gave up on having children because the babies were torn, and it was that they dressed up themselves, prepared a nice supper for the husband, went out to the field, seduced them with the mirrors. They told them, "Look how you look how I look," and they had children. Then, first of all, when we talk about righteous Jewish women, as a child, I thought you're talking about they were praying a lot. They were saying psalms. They were not saying psalms. They were making sure that they're having children. Then this is the biggest thing. And then, obviously, according to this Talmudic story, and it's based on verses in the prophets and so on, they were in the field. That the men did not come back home. Actually, they had homes. The Jewish midwives, God made them homes, and Rashi says that means to say that they made them dynasties. Okay, we are number 21 because, page 9, number 21.
Excuse me.
Go ahead, please.
There was this huge population explosion from 70 to millions. And I Googled the number today. How many Jewish people are in the world? And what I got on the computer was 23 million. So it's not been a lot of
23 million?
That's what it said.
Who
I've
came
seen
up with
about
this
12
number?
or
About
13.
14
Yeah.
or 15.
13, 14, 15 at best.
Oh, even probably more shocking.
Where did
There's
that
not been a
estimate come
huge. You know what? I just looked at the first entry that came up. I don't know where
right.
it came from, but it was. But I thought, well, there's not been a whole lot of population growth since then.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering, was the point of this explosion so there was a certain minimum people at Sinai, like 70 at Sinai wouldn't do it. You needed,
I don't know if it's because of Sinai, but because they suffered, they had more and more children. And no question that God wanted to create a big nation right away, fast. Now, the reason why we are on the other end, there is another place in the Bible. God says, "Atem ha'me'at mikol ha'amim." You are the smallest of all nations. God predicted in the Bible, I think it's in the book of Deuteronomy, says that you are the small. We are the fewer of all nations. That's why God loves us, because we are the smallest, so to speak. Even that we are the smallest, or because we are the smallest. Then God predicted we were going to be a small nation. Small in numbers, less quantity, more quality. Maybe.
Except aren't we suffering now?
We are
Yes and
suffering.
no.
I mean, in America, you're suffering. How things are in Beachwood?
We're in
Someone
exile.
we don't suffer.
We're in exile.
Yes, we are suffering. In exile, it's all relative. There, they really suffered.
I understand that, but it's also said when
now,
Moshiach comes.
one second. Now, why we are so small? Whose fault is it?
Well, it's ours.
We are assimilating, right? 50 years ago, how many Jews were in America 50 years ago? 5 million? How many
Is
Jews
that
are
right?
today?
Is that right?
Something
Was it
like
5
this.
million 50 years ago?
I think so. 4 years ago. How
Okay.
many we are today? 5 million. What happened? Nothing.
Mhm.
In the middle, hundreds of thousands of Russian Jews came, Jews from all other places. We're still 5 million. Why? In top of it, there is cover to join the Jewish people. Then what? I always said that we didn't double ourselves. Every nation has to grow. What is happening? Because they assimilate. An assimilation. That's what is the biggest. That's really the Holocaust of today, if you think about it. Then you're right. We should be millions and millions now. But Jewish people assimilated throughout history.
Yeah.
The 10 tribes are the lost 10 tribes. What do you mean they lost? They were lost on the road. They didn't find the way. What means they lost? Lost where? We took them to the park and they got lost. They were assimilated. They were idol worshippers. They wanted to be like the other nations. The moment they were exiled, they assimilated. You know, the other 2 tribes who were also exiled after the destruction of the first temple, we are still around. From the people who didn't assimilate. All of our children, parents and grandparents were people who did not assimilate, because if not, we wouldn't sit here. During the time, Hanukkah time, the Hellenists, half of the Jewish people, maybe more, were Hellenists.
Yeah.
Joined the Greeks, more than half. The majority, when the Torah says, when we say in the prayer, the few against the many, we are not talking about the Greeks. The few against the many Jews who were joining the Greeks. And then on and on and on throughout history, and what was in Spain, what was in Germany, everywhere, Jewish people. That's our biggest challenge, how to raise a generation with a strong Jewish identity that doesn't assimilate.
But it's said that when Moshiach comes, we go into the next era. That when instead of talking about the Mitzrayim, which we do in our prayers toward
We will
today,
talk about,
this exile.
you're right.
Everything else. So it implies that this exile, and this is supposed to be the cumulative effect of all the other, So, I mean, I agree with you. I'm not starving for food. And
Oh, you say,
I'm
on a
warm
spirit,
and I'm good.
I'll tell you, when you don't know that you suffer, it's even a bigger suffering. You understand?
Yeah.
When people don't know that they're missing something, they're really missing something. Then the same thing is here. The Jewish people doesn't know that they are missing, but really our problem is the biggest problem is out, and that's what the same struggle. What Pharaoh wanted to reduce the amount of babies, of Jewish babies. Now it's happening. We are cooperating. That's why I said in the beginning, what's all about family planning. That's what it's all about. Okay, we'll turn to page 10. Go ahead.
Thank you. Pharaoh then commanded all his people, saying, "Every boy who is born must be thrown into the river, but every girl shall be allowed to live."
Every boy. He didn't say every Jewish boy. Every boy, right? That Rashi says, because he said his astrologist told him today will be born the Jewish Redeemer, and we don't know if he's a Jew or an Egyptian. Just not to take a chance, he said every boy. But there is, there is to the Bible, there is a Targum. Targum means a translation. There is a translation. In every Chumash you see a Aramaic translation by Onkelos. Onkelos was a convert in the time of the Romans. And he made a translation under the auspices of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. On the other end, it was there's another translation. It's called the Targum Jerusalem translation that was made in Israel. Also Aramaic translation. That translation gives more commentary. In the translation of the Jerusalem translation, it says like this: every boy that's born to the Jews. Here it says every boy. That means like this: the official statement was every boy. The population is too big. We have to reduce the population. Every boy. What they said secretly, Jewish boy. The translation gave them a real meaning. That's the official statement. Every boy. The real thing, the agenda, the SS guys, they understood what we're talking about. What, you don't get it? Talking about the Jewish boys. But officially, Pharaoh treats everybody equally. Then there is coming the terrible tragedy of throwing babies into the river. Okay, continue.
A man of the house of Levi went and married the daughter of Levi.
A man from, no names. A man from the house of Levi married a woman.
Yeah.
Later we know it's Amram and Yocheved, they have names.
Yeah.
Nothing. The idea probably is to say that was, then Rashi comes with the whole story, the Talmud says, then Amram divorced his wife because he wanted to make a statement. He wanted to demonstrate against God. If all the babies are being killed, who needs to have children? He demonstrated. The rest of the Jewish people demonstrated.
Yeah, but this is very strange, because the order is not correct. Or because this is a remarriage?
That's already the second marriage.
That's the second, okay.
Yes.
All right, then that makes sense.
Then he says here, and then Miriam, who was 5 years old, came to him and told him, "You're worse than Pharaoh. Pharaoh wants only Pharaoh's decree is only on the boys. Not having children will not be not boys and not girls. Pharaoh might die tomorrow. Your decree you cannot have children." And then she told him, she gave him a prophecy. She told him, a Jewish baby will be born. You will give birth to a Jewish baby who will be the redeemer of the Jewish people. Then the woman got conceived.
And bore a son.
Right.
She saw that he was exceptionally good, and she kept him hidden for 3 months.
She was so exceptionally good that the Rashi says when he was born, the house was filled with light. It means to say he had such a light around him, such a charisma, or some spiritual light around him, that when you saw him, everybody you saw him fell in love with him.
It was also that he was born circumcised, wasn't he?
You're right. According to, it's not written in the text. I think maybe it's written somewhere in Rashi. I mean, I'm not sure if it's a Medrash or Rashi
But
writes
that's
it.
also what it means by being,
The point is, when you looked at the baby, you saw that this baby is a special child. That she hid him for 3 months. Why? He was born early, that she was able to hide him. He was born after 6 months. She was able to. That's what Rashi said. Okay.
That was interesting. 6 months, and then she kept him hidden for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Like it adds up to 9 months.
9
That's
months.
right.
Because before the police shows up by 9 months, they were keeping track on any woman who is pregnant. She waited 9 months. She knew they are showing up. It's a matter of a day. She decided to do something. What she decided to do? You want to continue?
When she could no longer hide him, she took a papyrus box and coated it with clay and tar. She placed the child in it and placed it in the reeds near the bank of the river.
Tell me, what's the idea? He should die from hunger? What's this? What is this business of putting him putting him by the river? She's trying to save him, right? What was she doing? What was she thinking?
Something to do with the fact that that was the day that this decree was from Pharaoh or something?
Whatever day it was, she knows that the police is coming. She decided what she's going to do. She put him there, and then what?
What?
She didn't know that Pharaoh's daughter is going to come down and bathe and see the baby and fell in love with the baby. She just put him up. She dropped him off. It's like somebody drops off in the middle of nowhere his baby, wants to get rid of his baby.
it's almost like Hagar, who takes her son and puts him off.
Yeah, then what's the...
Well,
What?
she was going to go leave him there for
For what?
24 hours because she knew in 9 months that they were going to show.
No, they'll come after 9 months too. What do you think? You think
What?
These guys are not coming one time. If
Why
it's coming
not?
for one time, she can give him to a neighbor. She doesn't have to throw him in the middle of nowhere.
I agree. Maybe she was hiding him and said, "I'll be," and no one
She
will find him.
put them in a good box that water cannot go in. So it's like almost like Noah's Ark, right?
Mhm.
And she puts him by the river. What is the logic here? What do you think? Let's get into Yochevet's and Moses' mother's mind. What was she thinking? You ever thought about it? You saw
Well,
the movie, right?
That's the Egyptian god, the Nile River. She
Then
wasn't
what
Jewish, was
She was Jewish. Moses' mother was Jewish.
Sure,
Yocheved.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
I thought they were
Yocheved was
Midianites.
no, Yocheved
No,
was
no, that's
Moses' wife.
Moses' wife.
You're right.
Oh,
Moses'
Moses'
wife was
Jethro.
Here is the most. She was a
She wa-
clear descent. She was born when they entered Egypt, according to the Medrash. Whatever it is, she was for sure from the grandchild
enough
of
to know
yeah.
better.
What is the logic of putting him by the river? No, you read it so many times, my friend.
she must have been thinking that somebody else would find him and take
And
him.
if not, most. How you know such a thing is going to happen?
Well, Miriam went out.
Miriam went out on her own. But let's say even Miriam was there. What Miriam can do? The problem is they're looking for Jewish babies. They're going, any Jewish baby they find, they kill.
She's trusting that Hashem will take care of the child.
Think about a child during the Holocaust. They're running and looking in the ghettos for Jewish kids, for Jewish people.
Mhm.
You take the baby, you put it in the middle of nowhere. What do you think is going to happen? He'll die. He'll die at best. He'll kill at worst.
They usually give it to a Christian family.
Oh, I understand if she would take her and put her on, find a good friend, an Egyptian friend, and give her a pot. She put her in the middle of nowhere.
How come,
I'll
I
tell you
haven't,
what
how come I
happened.
haven't seen the answer to this question?
We're about to
see. Some questions you should know, some answers you shouldn't
That's
know.
why
If
I
it's
come
not,
here, right?
there's no
You
reason to come here. If you know everything, well, I'll be out of business, I'll not have a job. Then she realized that the destiny of the Jewish boys is to be thrown into the river. That she said to herself, my child will not escape the destiny. Where we see this way of thinking. If you think you're going to escape the destiny of the Jewish people, you are mistaken. Who said it to whom?
Oh, in Purim?
Very good. Mordechai tells Esther, go speak to the king. And if you think that you will, because you're in the king's house, in the palace, you're going to be escaping, forget about it. If this is the destiny of the Jewish people, you will be a part of it. Yocheved saw every Jewish baby is making it to the river. That she said, you know what, I'll do it myself. I'll put them in the river. And then we'll leave it up to God. That's what she said. She understood it. She realized every baby is being thrown into the river. What, my child is better than anybody? Why should it be? The moment she put him in the river, go ahead. Number 4.
The child's sister stood herself at a distance to see what would happen to him.
Why she stood? Because she was the one who told her father, a Jewish, the Redeemer is going to be born. That he told her, the Medrash says, no, what happened to your prophecy? Therefore she felt an obligation to go and to stay there.
Pharaoh's daughter went down to bathe by the river, while her maids walked along the river's edge. She saw the box among the reeds, and sent her maid, and she fetched it.
Okay, Mark, you want to continue?
Sure.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, go
on
ahead,
that.
please.
I was reading its commentary about the word amata.
Amata has 2 meanings. Rashi says it right here. Your maid,
Meaning her handmaiden, but the
Handmaiden.
sage explained as hand.
and a long hand. Iran became, and he says in the last line of the Rashi, and her arm extended many cubits.
Yes, that's how But here it says that she just saw the box among the reeds, and rather than this image you have of her arm.
Yeah, but here it's literally she sent her maid.
So literal.
The point is, no matter how, it was an extended of her hand. It doesn't have to be necessarily the physical hand, but it was
Okay.
an extended of her. An extension of herself.
But it was also odd that she's bathing in the Nile River,
Right.
isn't it?
That the
Because
Talmud
because
says,
the river was a god, or it was It was an extension of
The
Pharaoh.
Talmud says, the Medrash says that she made it out of her. She was like converting. She was trying to get rid of the believing idols. She was disillusioned with Egypt, a country that kills babies, that puts people into slavery. She couldn't stand it. She was obviously a special woman. And what was her name?
Butter.
Batya. The name of Pharaoh's daughter, later we know from other places, is Batya, the daughter of God. She, according to the Talmud and the Medrash, converted and joined the Jewish people when they left Egypt. That she was never a part of this agenda of killing babies. She opened, go ahead, Mark.
She opened it and saw the child, and behold, a boy was crying. She took pity on it and said, "This is one of the Hebrew boys."
That's a miracle. She saw a baby. She knows it's an Hebrew baby. And she still has mercy on him. Now think about Hitler's daughter, finds a Jewish baby and decides to adopt him. How would this fly? But Pharaoh also didn't like it. But you know what he can do to his daughter? We all know what it means when your daughter starts crying and making a whole scene. You know what? Whatever you want, just leave me alone. Pharaoh, the big superpower of all world, was raising a Jewish baby knowingly in his house, in the palace. And he couldn't do much because his daughter wanted to adopt the baby. Moses obviously was a very special child. As you see before, that the mother saw that she saw he was good, and then she opened the box and she right away fell in love with this baby. That means anybody who saw this child saw that there's something special. It's not a regular child.
The infant sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call to you a nursing mother from the Hebrew women to nurse the child for you?" Go
Why?
said-
Because the Talmud says he didn't want to nurse from a non-Jewish mother. That finally the baby is crying and crying. That she said, "You know what? I'll bring you a Hebrew woman."
Go, said Pharaoh's daughter to her. The young girl went and called the child's mother.
Yeah, but she told her, "I'm calling an Hebrew woman." She called the mother's child, the child's mother.
Pharaoh's daughter said to her, the child's mother, "Take this child and nurse him for me, and I'll pay you fee." The woman took the child and nursed it. When the child grew
Look,
up,
1 second. That what is happening here? The Jewish mother, the mother of Moses, is feeding him, and Pharaoh's daughter is paying for it.
yeah.
That's the ultimate way how God makes the enemy helping the Jewish Redeemer to be raised. Not only he wasn't killed, not only the Jewish mother gave her to Jewish mother to be nursed, she's being paid for it. That's the concept. There is a concept that's written, Gam oivav yashlim imo. Also the enemies will help you. You know, when the Jewish people, when later we read, we will never make it to the end of this parsha tonight. I mean, we'll make it eventually. But Moses gets upset that the Jewish people suffer. And what's going to be the Jewish people? It's only get worse because they went to Pharaoh. The last line of this parsha is, you will see, not only Pharaoh will not keep them, he will chase them out of the country. Why he needed this mitzvah? Because the Jews, they were not so hot to live, you know. Nobody wants to live a civilized country and go to nowhere. You see, in the end of Parshat Shemot, the last line
55.
is 55, yeah. See? Look at number 1.
He will drive them out of the...
Hashem
Adonai,
said
not
to Moshe.
Elohim, said to Moshe, "Now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh, for by my strong hand he will let them go, and by a strong hand he will drive them out of this land."
He will drive them out of the country. And that's actually, as Rashi says, and that's actually what happened when they actually left Egypt. Look on page 137, number 33. The Egyptian,
Pressed the people to hurry them to send them out of the land, for they said, "We are all dead men."
the Jews wanted to make a few more matzahs, a few more maize. He has to go to the bank, he has to pack a few peklah. They chased them out of Egypt. You know why? Because the Jews would not leave so fast. They wouldn't leave. Yeah, we'll go, Moses, you go, send us a telegram. If things are good, we'll come, we'll see. We'll come for a visit, we'll join you, maybe, we'll see. The same thing is here. What the idea is, ultimate redemption is, when the rest of the world helps the Jew to serve God. That's what will be when Moshiach will come. What happened when the Jews left Russia in the last 20 years ago? For 70 years, they didn't allow one Jew to go. Not only they didn't they allowed them, they helped. The government helped, provided planes and provided things. The world helps the Jew to serve God. That's the ultimate goal. Even, let's say, in the Gulf War, was a coalition of nations fighting Iraq on behalf of Israel. Who threw missiles? On Israel. Israel didn't have to do one thing. The whole world was fighting in Iraq for Israel. That's Messianic time. That's what is really happening here. Pharaoh's daughter is paying the mother to nurse the baby. And it's all over. It's a team that goes, that's the ultimate goal. Go ahead.
What page are we on?
Michael.
Okay, when
14.
No, we are page 14, number 10, yes.
when the child grew up, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moshe, for she said, I drew him from the water.
Okay. First of all, I want to show you, let's go to page 10. We'll see something very
10.
interesting. 2 pages back. How much is written about the suffering of the Jewish people?
Not much.
Not much.
Not much.
16 verses. How many years they suffered?
210.
How many years they suffered in Egypt?
210.
No. They were in Egypt for 210 years. But all the time that Joseph was alive, things were great.
Subtract 59.
80 years?
80 years.
Okay.
Moses was born, and he was the Redeemer when he was 80, right? 8
Okay.
years, right? That's
Got
how
it.
the rabbis came to the
Got
80.
it. Okay.
8 years of suffering. 16 verses are written. How much is written about the redemption? Pages and pages and
Chapters.
pages. How long was the whole redemption process? From the time God spoke to Moses at the burning bush until the splitting of the sea, how long was it? A year. From Pesach to Pesach. And the actual 10 plagues took 6 months. Then we have 6 months of miracles, 8 years of suffering. The 8 years of suffering, 16 verses. Shine, done. The redemption goes on and on and on and on. That doesn't end. Why is it? There is a story about a Hasidic rabbi before the Holocaust. He used to have bad dreams. He used to wake up in the morning, he said, I had a terrible dream. Now there is a law, don't practice it, but there is such a thing, that if you have a bad dream, you're fasting. Do not practice this thing. It's only for holy people. And then there is another thing. I don't practice it either. We don't believe in fasting. I'm just telling you the story as it is. You take 3 rabbis, you like a Beit Din, and you nullify your dream. They tell you basically that the dream is nothing. Forget about it. Like nothing will happen. He used to have bad dream. He never said what a dream is. He had a bad dream at night. He used to fast every day. Sunday, Monday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, every day. Comes Shabbos, you're not allowed to fast. He ate. After Shabbos, he's fasting again. Every day, every day. They brought doctors, they brought rabbis to convince him how to fast. Nothing. He says, I see horrible things. He didn't say what he saw. You know, no matter how holy you are, if you fast every day, you're not going to survive. You get sicker and sicker. One day he called one of his disciples and he told them, Yosaleh, it's going to come terrible times for the Jewish people. But I'm telling you, you'll survive. But after you survive, do not speak about the tzores. Learn from the Bible. A few lines about the tzores and all the lines about the miracles. Do not concentrate on the bad, concentrate on the good. And the same thing it was in the Agode. 2 lines he say, yeah, we're right away jumping to the 10 plagues, and the Egyptians suffered, and the 10 plagues and the 50 plagues, and let's go and make the calculations. Jewish people are not busy with suffering. They are busy with remembering the tzores. We remember the miracles, the good things. You concentrate on the positive, not on the negative. And here is a perfect example. There is such a short 2 pages on the tzores and so much about the. Right away we move on to the miracles. Now here, when you're talking about Moses' name, who gave him the name?
Pharaoh. Daughter.
Gotcha.
Pharaoh's daughter.
Pharaoh's daughter gave him a name. That he wasn't named, his parents for sure gave him a name, right?
Yeah.
What was this name that the Pharaoh, his parents gave him? The Medrash says a few names. Tuvia, there's a few names. Nobody even knows. The name in the Bible, how God accepted his name? Moshe. Why? Why the name after why they accepted Pharaoh's daughter's name and not the name of his own parents? You know, especially the Jewish people. It's according to Kabbalah, the name that your parents give you is a prophecy and so on. Nobody even knows what was his parents' name. Because Pharaoh's daughter saved his life. She risked her own life to save his life. Therefore, that's what matters. She became really his mother. It's true that he had Yocheved who gave him birth and Amram, but the one who was really his mother was Pharaoh's daughter. Therefore, what counts is her name. And by preserving the name Moses, God, the Torah, and God preserved Pharaoh's daughter forever. Because who gave the name Moses?
Yeah,
Pharaoh's daughter.
The name means drew from the water.
Drawn from the water. Yeah, that's what the names mean. That's the meaning of the name. Yes.
Feedback.
Okay, we'll continue on page 15. Page 15.
Okay.
Michael, you want to continue?
Yes, I very much so do wish to continue. Where are we?
Page 15, number 11.
Okay, thank you. It was in those days when Moshe was grown that he began to go out to his brethren, and he saw their burdens, hard labors. One day he saw an Egyptian beating one of his Hebrew brethren. He, Moshe, looked all around, and when he saw that no man was there watching, he killed the Egyptian and hid his body in the
Okay,
sand.
here starts the story of Moses. Now, this next 2 pages is Moses' resume. We read about his birth, then not a word about until he turned probably 20. Now he's turning 20. He's going out. Finally, as Rashi says, he started to care. He cast his eyes and heart to feel the distress. He's going out to see what's going on. What is he seeing? He sees an Egyptian beating up a Jew. It's written, Moshe looked all around. What means the language in Hebrew is Vaifen ko vako. He looked on this side, he looked on this side. And he saw that there is no man there to stand up. Watching is one meaning. And the literal sense you can say, there is nobody around. Nobody defends the Jews. Jewish blood is like water. On this side and the other side, nobody cares. He looks around, he says, anybody going to stand up and say, what is this? Why are you beating him up? No. There is nobody else. She saw there is no man standing up, defending the Jew, stopping evil. But he did it. He had no choice. He didn't want to do it. But he saw that there is nobody else. He killed the Egyptian and he buried them. Rashi says he killed them with, the Medrash says the Talmud says he killed them with the name of God. Whatever, he killed them. He saved the Jew. The Egyptian policeman wanted to kill the Jew, and he saved them, and he killed the Egyptian. It was a matter who is going to be saved. If you don't stop it, if you don't kill, there were only Jews around. There was no other Egyptian, only Jews around, and he killed the Egyptian policeman. He went out the next day. Page 17, number 13.
He went out the next day, and behold, 2 Hebrew men were quarreling. And he said to the wicked one, why are you beating your friend? He, the wicked one, said, who made you a man, officer, and judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian? Moshe was frightened, and he said, so the matter is known.
Okay, here is the second story. The first story, you see Moses sees an Egyptian beating up a Jew. Moses knows that he's Jewish, that he's an Hebrew. He sees an Egyptian beating up an Hebrew, he stands up for him. First of all, a sign of a leader.
Yes.
Risked his life to save his brother. Fine, but you can say, you know what, he cares only for his brothers. Comes the second story. You saw 2 people fighting, you can say, yesterday was a matter of life and death. I had to risk my life to save him. But here, two people are fighting, big deal, every day it happens. Moses couldn't handle it. He says, why are you want to beat up your friend? What did he tell them? Who are you? Why did he tell them, who are you? They knew, everybody knew that a Jewish boy prince is raised by Pharaoh. They felt, who are you? You're coming now, you forgot that you're Jewish, and you're coming as a Pharaoh's son to tell us what to do? Go, when your own blood, flesh and blood, is trying to be your officer and to oppress you, the anger is even bigger. Who are you to tell us what it is? You think we don't know what happened?
Isn't this the same man?
Yeah, that's what the Talmud says. That was the same man. One of
Because who else knows? Moshe looked around. There was nobody else there.
You're right. On the little sense,
What do you
you're
mean?
right.
Well,
What do
these
you
are
mean
the
the
two
same
guys
man?
that are the troublesome.
They were
Egyptian
two
was
bad.
beating
There were
that
two. There were
Jew.
two guys, and
The
they,
first is one of
they're
the
the ones
Jews.
that
Now
are
this
troubled.
Jew's
They're with
fighting with another
Korach.
Jew. The
They're
next
They were
they're
always
every time
troublemakers.
trouble.
Same guy.
That the Talmud puts
Oh, the Jew
Dathan
that
and
was-
Is this
Aviram.
Nathan?
Yeah.
I
Here,
never thought of
okay.
that.
This is
Yeah,
Edward
yeah,
G.
yeah.
Robinson.
Yeah. Oh, that's in the movie. Yeah.
Oh,
These
God.
guys are.
Here Rashi says it on page 17, number 13. Rashi says, two Hebrew men, they were Dathan and Aviram.
Mhm.
You see?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay.
I see it.
Yeah, but whatever the point was, they reported them to Pharaoh. They reported the Jewish prince for trying to save the life of another Jew.
How do you get that? Because he says, so the matter is known. He knew the matter
One
was known.
second, and the next line, read another
Pharaoh
line.
heard about the matter.
Pharaoh heard about the matter. Pharaoh heard that somebody told them, right? They didn't keep it a secret. Doesn't make a difference if they actually went to Pharaoh, knocked on his door, and told them. The point is, they didn't keep it a secret. They didn't care enough to save him. The matter was reported, one way or another. What Pharaoh wanted to do?
Kill
Go
Moshe.
You want to read some- Okay, Pharaoh heard about the matter, and he planned to kill Moshe. Moshe fled from Pharaoh, and he resided in the land of Midian, and lived near the well.
Okay. Pharaoh he had a death sentence. Moses was wanted in Egypt for murder. And Pharaoh issued on Moses a death sentence.
But it's a very strange thing.
Why?
Well, because if Pharaoh killed somebody, there wouldn't be a death sentence on Pharaoh. Somebody from his household, a prince like this. I mean,
But
they
this
walk
is a
out into
Jew,
the
one
street.
second, this is a Jewish prince. Pharaoh never wanted them really in the house. And Pharaoh sees that now this guy is taking over. He's trying to fight the agenda that you have to get rid of him. Plenty of kings got rid of people who were not according to their agenda, didn't line up. You understand? And at this point, it's not anymore the baby Moses that is raised in the house. Now is an adult. If he's going against, if he's killing an SS officer because the SS officer wanted to kill the Jew, that's what is going to happen. Pharaoh issued a death sentence to Moses. Okay, continue, number 16.
The priest of Midian had 7 daughters. They came to draw water from the well and fill their troughs to water their father's sheep. Then the shepherds came and chased them away. Moshe got up and came to their aid and then watered their sheep. When they
Okay,
came,
let's stop right here. Moses shows up in a strange land. An Egyptian man in a strange land. Runs away. He's wanted, right? He runs away to a foreign country. He doesn't know anybody.
Mhm.
He sees a fight. Tell me, what is his business? Because he tried to save because he got involved in the fight, he got into trouble, right?
Think he'd learn his
The
lesson.
reason why he is in Midian is because he got into a fight. He tried to fix things. Because he tried to fix the second thing, he got into big trouble.
Has
And
to
you know
do
what?
with-
By now, you burned yourself twice. You sit quietly in a foreign land. Why are you getting involved?
but the three episodes are different. He knows what to do. That's because he's a leader.
Oh,
That's-
that even when there are two strangers, that
But
The
the,
fir-
fir-
the
but the
fir-
first time he assesses the situation, he kills the Egyptian. The second time, Pharaoh has he runs away. And the third time, he does this verbally. He doesn't. I mean, there's nothing here about physical violence.
it's not written. Doesn't mean no matter how it was. The point is that you're right. It's a good point. It's not written that he did anything physically, But the number one, what I mean to say is, the first time he cared for the Jew, makes sense. The second time he cared for a regular fight between two people, between two Jews. The third time, it's about complete strangers, he never met them. He cared too.
Yeah.
That's Moses' resume. These three stories, that's what made him to deserve to be a leader of the Jewish people. And according to some medrash, I remember to see one somewhere, I don't remember where, that it's written the word, he came to their aid, is a very, not a good translation. It's written in Hebrew, Vayoshian. Leoshia means to redeem them, to save them. Like they were in big trouble.
Is that from the root Hoshea?
Hoshea et Amecha, yes. Redeem the people, yes. Hoshea and Hoshea is the same root, yes. And as you will read later, he saved them from the hand of these guys. What does this mean? Then some medrash says that they tried to assault them, the girls. That's why he saved them. It wasn't just he gave them water. It was much bigger than that.
This all happened by the well too, which goes back to his like the Rebecca.
Everyone found this shidduch by the well. This is true, very true.
Mhm. Mhm.
They came. Go ahead. Go ahead. When they came to Reuvel,
Their father, he said to them, "How did you come home so early today?" They said, "An Egyptian rescued us from the hand of the shepherds, and he also drew water for us and
Oh.
watered the sheep."
the Egyptian rescued us from the hand of the shepherd. You realize that? It's not he make us water. Oh, he pushed them away and he gave us some water. So let's say they chase them away. They don't have water. Fine, big deal. An Egyptian man rescued us. Obviously, it was a matter of rescuing. You know, you have to rescue somebody who's in big trouble. Then the first it's written Vayoshia. Here it's written Itzilono. And that's why he says, bring them home. I want to be thankful to such a guy.
I have to ask you a
Right,
question.
he says, where is he?
Yeah.
He's got 7 daughters.
I don't think
Saying,
that was
"Where
his
is he?"
first thought.
Not like all the other guys you bring home. Here's somebody.
Somebody
but
productive.
Where did you let him go? Why'd you let him go?
You know, they say that the text is, that's a very practical thought. You're right. But they say also, Ish Mitzri, an Egyptian man. Moses looked like an Egyptian man. Joseph, in contrast, always said about himself that he's an Hebrew. He made sure that everybody should know that he's an Hebrew. And the Medrash points out, we see something very interesting. Joseph died in Egypt. Where was Joseph's bones buried?
In the Nile River.
In Israel.
Yeah.
Buried, eventually.
buried.
Yeah.
Right? Was brought in Israel to Nablus, to Shechem. Where is Moses buried?
In
Outside
the-
of Israel.
yeah.
Then the Medrash points out that's because of this thing. Joseph never was afraid, never allowed anybody to make a mistake about his identity. He was always proud of being an Hebrew. Moses allowed people to understand that he's an Egyptian. Therefore, he lost the right, so to speak, to be buried in Israel. On the other hand, you can look at it the other way, that he wanted to be with his Jewish people. That the Jewish people are in Egypt now. He wants to look like an Egyptian. He wants to think constantly about the people in Egypt. He doesn't want to forget about it for a second.
I'll just say, the fact that these girls are shepherding their sheep, and then the other shepherds wanted to get the water, right?
Yeah.
You think about it. I mean, they've been probably doing this for a long time. The girls with the sheep, and this is the first time they ever encountered these guys.
You don't know. Maybe it was a regular thing. According to the Talmud and the Medrash, it was because, I think Rashi says it too. Then because here Rashi said it in number 16, page 19, number 16. The priest of Midian means the Kohen Midian means the most prominent of them. He abandoned the worship of idols, whereupon they, the Midianites, banished them. That's why. He denied their idols. Jethro checked every philosophy in every culture, every belief.
Mm-hmm.
He tried every religion, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And he finally came to the conclusion about God. That's why he says, later in the Parsha of Jethro, he says, now I know that your God is above all the other gods. In Parshat Jethro, right in the beginning of Jethro, on page 231, it says number 11. Read the text. Go ahead.
Now
The
I
text,
know.
right,
Now I know that Adonai is greater than all the gods.
Now look what Rashi says. Now I know.
Now I know. I was aware of him in the past, but now all the more so
Can I continue?
than all the gods. This teaches that he was acquainted with all forms of idol worship in the world, that he did not leave any idol unworshipped.
He tried everything, and finally he came to the conclusion, oh, this is a good idea. This is God. But here, that's why he was ostracized. That's why they hated him. Let's say there's the whole story. He made it Moses a deal. He wants his children to be. He said to Moses, you can marry my daughter, but I want to raise the children the way I believe. We'll expose them to everything. Here is drugs, and here is some alcohol, and here is Islam, and here is Christianity, and here is Judaism, and they will choose. And Moses told them, you already went through all the trouble. Why are you giving this trouble to your children? But that was a whole struggle. But that's another story. What I mean to say is, Jethro he denied their idols, and therefore they were hating him. And
It's interesting that it's 7 daughters.
why? Why it's interesting 7? Because the number 7. Everything in Judaism is 7. The whole system is 7. 7 sefirot, 7 days of the week. I mean, it's all 7. Everything is in 7.
Did he have to, was Pharaoh's daughter that he marries the oldest so that he doesn't have to go through all that trouble?
Zipporah.
Well,
Is Tzipporah the oldest?
I think she
Probably.
was.
Yeah, probably it's the oldest.
But you're supposed to marry the oldest one first, right?
Right.
That's what I said,
He fell in love
otherwise
with the youngest
otherwise he would have had to
We
go
learned
through all
that
that
in the
trouble.
last book.